Hi, thank you for joining us. I'm Tom Laskowski with Midwest Native Skills, and this is our every other Thursday Facebook Live. As always, I always like when you give us a note. I'd like to know who's out there so I can say hi, so I'm kind of talking to somebody and not just the internet dead air space. And if you have any questions or any comments, I'd like to feel those, and so we have kind of more of an interactive conversation. A few things I want to go over real quick. I got a few comments about our mini bug out bag. You remember I showed this, or my little medical kit, and people were wondering where you could get these little vials. And so these were the little vials. If you go on our website homepage, it's under featured products. They're also under survival kits if you go to our school store. So if you were looking for these, they're on the front page of the website. So you can order those if you were interested in those. Some people were having problems finding them. Also, we got a relatively new series of products in. One thing I think I mentioned during bug out bags is communication is vital. Communications between people, but even more so, communications to find out what's going on around you. So you need a radio, so you have AM and FM stations if there's some kind of disaster or an emergency going on. But also, even if you're camping or hiking, you need to know what the weather's coming in. Now, if you take a survival class, you should be able to read the clouds and know by temperature and different things what kind of wind directions, what kind of weather's moving in. But it's always good to have a backup and have the 7 NOAA weather radio stations. So if you can get a radio that has those NOAA stations pre-programmed in, you're one step ahead. We restocked our radios, and we have some really small radios we got in. They're the Kaida radios. So if you go to our school store and go to the miscellaneous section, it's all the way down there in the school store, just click on that. You'll see the emergency radios. There it says, I believe, emergency radios and bug out bag radios. There's 4 of them, and the bottom 2 are the really small ones you might be interested in for your bug out bag. So we just got those in. If you're interested in some kind of radios that has the AM, FM, and the NOAA weather stations, you might want to check those out, but we just got those in. A few things we have here just about our classes. Our classes are filling up this year. Our May 15th Wild Edible class is full already, but we did add a Sunday class. That's almost full. But there's still a few openings left on that one. Our May weekend survival class, that one's full. But our summer weekend survival class, that would be July 9th through 11th, we still have openings in that one. And our fall class, which is a great class to take. We have stews in there for the lunches, and you want to gather around the fire because it's starting to get a little cooler that time of year. That one's open. So our summer and our fall weekend survival classes are open. We did add an incense making class. That's going to be on Saturday, May 29th. So if you're in the area, it's only a half-day class. It'll be from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Making incense, and we're going to be doing it the easy way, the medium hard way, and then the old-fashioned way where you start from the beginning and make incense from the ground up and make it the real old-fashioned way. So that'll be May 29th. We have our week survival class, June 13th through 19th, and I'm adding something to that class because I know that some of you have taken our survival classes 5, 10, 15 years ago, and maybe you didn't keep up on your skills like you wanted to. I'm offering kind of a special of a refresher class. If you wanted to retake our Survival 101 class, the 6-day class, rather than full price, I'm going to offer that for just a $500 total package so you can retake that class. And just for that $500. So if you go to the class, do the drop downs, it'll say refresher retake, and you can do that. But you have to take that class sometime in the past 23 years. So there'll be a little bit of a discount if you wanted a refresher on that Survival 101 class. So that'll be on the 6-day class, but that'll be June 13th through 19th. We have our beekeeping class. If you're ever interested in beekeeping, that's a one-day class, but you get to put on a bee suit, you get to actually go into the bees, you get to find out. If you ever wanted to start an apiary in your own yard, if you live in the city, you can do it there. Or if you live in the country and you want to get a couple hives, get honey, get your bee pollen, get the wax, you can do it there. It's not difficult, but you need to know some of the basics. End of July, we have our Bug Out Bag Challenge. So if you have some survival training, even if you haven't taken a survival class from us or from someone else, but you have been watching a lot of YouTube videos, you have your bug out bag and you want to test your skills or test your bug out bag, this might be the class for you. We're going to have it down at our Southern Ohio location. The purpose of this class is to test out your bug out bag and for you to find out where some holes are in your plan. So it's not going to be to embarrass you. It's not going to be to play capture the flag with you. We will have some challenges and some situations to make sure that you're prepared for those situations. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's going to be enough to challenge your skills and to challenge your bug out bag. So if you think you're ready for this emergency that you talk about when you're sitting around the campfire with your friends or at home, this might be the class for you. It's going to be a weekend class, and it'll be a lot of fun. So that's going to be July 30th through August 1st. On the website, give us a call if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that. Other than that, we have our moonshine making class. We have two of those. I have it on a Saturday, July 3rd, which is a half-day class. It's in the morning from 9 to about 1 o'clock. But if you happen to work on a Saturday, I have an evening class, July 27th. That's going to be in an evening from like 6 until 9:30. Again, these are on the website. Remember, our classes are small, so I'll cap them at a certain number, like our weekend class, we cap them at 15. So sign up as soon as you can. Other than that, I'm always available for one-on-one classes. And anytime during the summer, if you want to take some more classes, just have me and you taking a class, we can always do that. So, do we have anybody call in? Anybody watching us?
Paul and Teresa and Wendy are on with us.
Okay. Nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining us again, Paul. They probably know all about cordage, but we'll talk about cordage anyway. If any of you have any experience with cordage, making it, this will be a basic one. There's a lot of things about cordage, and there's some people out there, I'm sure, that are experts at making cordage, but some of you might not. So we're going to start out with some of the basics. Again, I'm sure those who are watching are very familiar with the 550 cord, but if you're not, one of my favorites is the carrying along 550 cord. A lot of people might not know why it's called 550, and that's simply because it has 550 pounds of breaking strength. They also call this parachute cord or paracord. It was used for parachute risers in the military. But what I like about it is it has 7 strands. If you get true 550 cord, if you cut it at the ends, it has 7 strands inside. So if I carry, say, 10 feet of this paracord with me, and it's very rare in a survival situation I'm going to need 550 pounds of breaking strength. But I might need more than 10 feet of line. I can always cut the ends off, pull out these inner strands, and tie them all together. So a simple math exercise, if I have 10 feet of 550 cord, and it has 7 strands in the center, and I tie everything together, how much line would I have? Most people would say, well, that's simple, huh? 7 in the inside, do the math, you'd have 70 feet, right? No, you have 80 feet. Most people forget about the outer sheath. So you have the 7 in the inside, you tie together, that gives you 70 feet, and you have the outer sheath, which gives you an additional 10 foot you can add, which would give you 80 feet. So you have to think outside the box there. So that's why I like 550 cord. A lot of people like to carry something called bank line. It's just basically some nylon cord. You can carry that with you. But my preference is the 550 cord. How much do you carry? In a survival kit, I would carry at least 100 feet. If you can carry 150, that's better. And again, more is better even yet. But let's talk more about natural cordage. You use cordage for a lot of different things. You're going to need it a lot of times for building a shelter. For building a trap, if you do anything more than a primitive trap, like a figure 4 deadfall, you're going to need it for a snare, to pull down your snares. If you use a Paiute trap, you're going to need it. Most other traps use some kind of cord or string. When I say cordage, I mean a rope, a string, some kind of cord. If you're making baskets, you need cord. You use it for a lot of different type of things. So when we're using natural cordage, one thing they used out west is yucca leaves. This was real big. They made clothes out of the cord they made out of yucca leaves. They made ropes, they made ladders, they made sandals, they made a lot of different things. On this yucca leaf I just picked today, not sure if you can see, but some of the cord is coming on the outside of the leaves here. It's just, this leaf is just full of these strands coming off. Now the secret is to try to get these strands, these fibers in here as long as you possibly can. So how do you get the strands out of this yucca? Well, the old way, pretty simple. You would put this on a rock, you would take another rock and just pound it. You'd keep pounding this yucca leaf, and it's a little mucilaginous, so you keep pounding this. It gets almost like an aloe leaf, but you're going to be separating the fibers. If you keep pounding flat, the fibers are going to be flat. You're going to flatten the fibers. All the juiciness will come out, and you can separate the fibers. And these fibers go from the bottom to the top here. So you're going to get a nice long fiber. The purpose of a long fiber is you don't have to splice your cordage as much. You can do it with short fibers, but every couple inches you'd have to splice it to get a long cord. The longer the fiber, the less you have to splice. So that's how they used to get the fibers out of like a yucca leaf. Now, there's a way to cheat in our modern world. You could put this into a pressure cooker, cook it for about 10 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure, and that's going to make all the leaf kind of turn to mush, and you can just pick the leaves out. But that's not a primitive way. But if you had a lot of leaves and you needed a lot of cord or a lot of fibers quick, you can always use a pressure cooker. But I like doing it the old-fashioned way for the yucca leaves. You can get it out of the inner bark of a tulip poplar tree or a cedar tree. And by inner bark, you go up to that tree, a dead tree, you peel the bark off, and the outer bark is naturally the outer bark. You would take that bark, flip it around, and the inner bark has long fibers. You would just take your fingernails, peel that off, and it's going to have long fibers. You'd use that as your long fibers, and then process it with a technique called reverse wrapping, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But right now we're just talking about how do you get these long fibers. One of the best ways, or best plants that I like, one of the strongest, is a plant that grows, if you're watching this video, except if you're over in Europe, and you might even have a type of dogbane up in Europe. It's a plant called dogbane. I just collected these 2 days ago. This is what they look like in the fall of the year. So these last late October, November is what the dogbane plant looked like growing. It was dead, and it has these little floaty seeds on it. So these were actually standing all winter long, and now through the snows and everything, and through the spring, and they were still standing. The ideal time to collect these was last November. Then they didn't stand out in the weather, because they were rotting the last 4 or 5 months in the weather. But they're still good enough to make cord out of, and that's what we're going to be using. We're going to use this dogbane. So if you take a ride, they like to grow in open fields. They have a reddish bark on them. And what I like to do, if I see some of these seeds, I like to pull the seeds out and then throw the seeds around. I like to help Mother Nature reseed the area. But you get a stalk like this, and you want to take all these little branches, and just break them off. What we want is the main stalk. I'm going to have to take a vacuum cleaner out here. Making cordage is a time-consuming process. Okay, so we have a main stalk. It doesn't take much time to do that part. Next, we take this, you put it on the ground, and we step on it. Pretty simple. Put this on the ground here. You got that, Cheryl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you step on it, it's going to break up into quarters, thirds or quarters, something like that. Be careful here. Just take this apart. Take your time. We're not in a hurry here. These fibers, we want them as long as possible. I'm showing you this step by step. Now we're going to post this on our YouTube channel next Wednesday. If you saw our YouTube channel, which is under the name Midwest Native Skills, you'll see we're posting quite a few of these Facebook Lives as well as other videos. You can, if you go driving and find some Dogbane, you can just go to that and follow along with this and do some cordage on your own. Okay, you saw we got almost thirds here. I'm going to use this piece right here to show you these next steps. We're going to save all this because we can do the same process to all of these thirds. Okay, we're going to use this part. I can break this. I will use this whole half. Okay, so we have this. The actual fibers are under this red bark, if you want to call this red skin. But there's wood on the inside, so the fibers are kind of caught between the wood on the inside and the skin on the outside, so we have to get those. Simplest way to do that is we take our fingers and we're going to bend it backwards every maybe, I would say, quarter inch, half inch. We're just going to kind of bend it back and break it. I'm going to break the wood. You do that the entire length of the stalk. Okay. Now, what we do is we take our thumbs and we kind of peel the wood and we flip off the wood to just leave the outer skin. If it doesn't go one way, try it the other way. We don't want to pull on it because that'll break those little fibers. So what I'm doing is taking my thumb, going under the wood, and kind of pushing it up, and letting it go off. And I'm doing that. Push it up, kind of go from both ends. It kind of pops right off, and all I have is this skin left.
So Leah has joined us, and she says, I will never forget sitting in my shelter with my headlamp strapped to my leg, making cordage at 11 o'clock at night. I was determined to finish.
And did you finish is my question. I know that you did.
Paul thinks the equivalent in Scotland would be Rose Bay willow herb.
Rose Bay?
Rose Bay willow herb.
Willow, yes. I have to get over to Scotland. That's one of my. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I saw several of your shelters and was very impressed with them. I checked those out. Any one of those would be comfortable enough to spend a holiday out there. Looks like you had a lot of moisture in your area there, so nice fire in those shelters would be really nice. Again, all I'm doing is breaking this. Interesting point though, there's really at least from what I know, this is the only way to make cord. Those big warships you see docked, those aircraft carriers, they have those big mooring lines. Those are all reverse wrapped. Only what they do with those, they double them and double them and double them. The steel cables that hold up the Golden Gate Bridge, well, they're made of steel, but they're reverse wrapped, pretty much. Only they're doubled and doubled and doubled. So, the purpose of this reverse wrapping is you're twisting a bundle of fibers one direction, and then you're twisting the bundle in the opposite direction, kind of bind against each other. And that binding keeps tension so it doesn't unwrap on itself, and that gives the cord its strength. Okay, so we did all that, and we have this, which is the skin with all of our fibers. Now what we do is we put this between our hands and just rub it. We're going to try to get this red skin off. Now, some of you might think it's gross, but if you wet your hands, it gives you a little more traction on here. Now, I will tell you that Dogbane is considered, in many books, a poisonous plant. So you're wondering, well, why am I rubbing it with my hands and then licking my hands? Well, let's see, I just like to live dangerously. I haven't died yet. And if you don't lick your hands, you'll never get enough traction to do what I'm doing. So I don't think it's poisonous enough to keel you over. Honestly, there's a lot of controversy whether Dogbane is that bad, or so that's another discussion for people with much more medical training than myself. But, maybe if you ate a whole bowl of it, you might have some stomach problems, but so far this has not hurt me. Okay, reason I want to get all the outer skin off there, that is organic. So if I would make cord and not try to get that skin off, it would still work. But in a period of 6 months, that organic material would start to rot. And when it does, it would flake off, and it would leave some airspace in my cord, and it would make the cord a little looser, and it wouldn't make the cord quite as tight. Okay, so now I have this, and this I could break fairly easily. So now we're going to do the magic, the reverse wrap part. Grab this cord, not in the center, a little bit off center, so you can see. See this? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how can I do this? Shelley, you can tell me, can you see this fairly well, or is it fading into the background?
It's all right.
It's
not great, but it's your hand, and you're not going to be able to do anything about that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm trying to hold these cords sideways so you can see it. And what I'm trying to illustrate here is you have a top cord and a bottom cord. I'm pinching it in the center. Okay? I'm going to take this top cord and twist it away from me. So if I'm like this, I'm going to twist this away from me. I'm going to twist it away from me about 2 or 3 times. Just make the fibers tight. So I still have my top one I'm twisting away, and here's my bottom cord. I'm going to take this top one, I'm going to bring it toward me and down, and bring the bottom cord up. So I just kind of reversed their position and kind of pinched it. So I have a new top cord. It used to be my bottom cord. And now I'm going to twist that one away from me 3, 4 times. I'm going to bring it toward me and down, and I'm going to bring the bottom cord up to become my new top cord, and then pinch. Twist the top one away from me 3 or 4 times. Bring it toward. Okay, 2 cords, top and the bottom. Top one goes away from me. Bring it toward me and down. Bring the bottom one up. Top one, twist away from me 3 times, 4 times. Bring it toward me and down. Bring the bottom one up.
Can we see what that's starting to look like?
Let me do it a couple more times. And I'll show you. And every time I pinch it to hold it up. Okay. It should not unwrap. That's all there is to reverse wrap. You have a top and bottom cord. Like I said, I'm turning my back to you because you would have it in front of you when you're doing this. So I'm trying to give you my view of this. Top and bottom cord. Twist the top one away from you. Bring it towards you and down. Bring the bottom one up to become your new top one. And you just keep doing that. Top away, toward you and down, bring the bottom one up. Top one away, toward you and down, bring the bottom one up. Top one away, toward you and down, bottom one up. That's reverse wrap. Nothing real magical here. Now, quite a bit there. Now you might have seen, if you watch National Geographic, you might have seen some Aboriginal, they'll have cord like this. They'll roll the whole bundle on their leg like that and take the other bundle, roll the whole bundle, and then do something in their hands and they get a length of cord. They're doing reverse wrap. What they're doing when they roll it on their leg, they're doing all the away twists in one fell swoop on both the top and bottom. And then they do all the twists toward them in one fell swoop. It's a way to do cord fast, but not as strong as this. This is the way to do it the strongest you can. And when you get comfortable with this, like I said, I'm doing the same thing now. I'm doing the reverse wrap, it's just, I'm doing it a little bit quicker now. And I'm using both hands, I'm kind of using both hands to twist. Now you can do this with anything. You can do this with toilet paper if you wanted. If you get toilet paper, get it kind of like this and twist it away and keep. But that's the technique of reverse wrap. Now they say, okay, when you get all the way done, how do you splice? You're going to get down to the bottom. It's very simple. You get some more cord like this and you lay it on one end of it and you bring it down on the short end and you bring it down the other side. Twist it into both sides and continue your reverse wrap. So you have to twist it into both sides and continue. And this way you can make a cord as long as you want. So what if you want to, you have say 50 feet of this and you want to make it stronger. This would be a strong cord. If we kept doing this, it would be difficult for me to break just in my hands. But not strong enough for say a bow and arrow. You'd have to double it. Real simply, you take your 20 feet of this, do the same thing, pinch it in the middle, and reverse wrap that. So you're taking your reverse wrap cordage and reverse wrapping that. The only trick there is when you double it, rather than going away from you and twisting towards you, you have to reverse that. On the doubling part, you have to twist toward you and twist away from you, or else you just unwrap it. You'd find that out pretty quick when you did it a few times and you find out your cord's unwrapping itself. So on doubling, you have to kind of reverse that. Twist away and twist toward you. But in classes, we'll do this, and this is just a weed. And I'll usually have some pretty strong guys in the class, and I'll say, well, let's try to break this. And some guy, oh, I can break that. And, they're pretty, you know, it depends how rotted the weeds are, but usually I'm going to cut my fingers before this breaks. Yeah, this isn't breaking. So this is from a weed, and it's going to be pretty strong. Now, if I wanted to make this really thin, I would use thinner raw materials to start with, and I can make fishing line out of this. If I wanted to make this waterproof, that'd be simple. I'd just get some beeswax and rub some beeswax on here, and then I'd have some waterproof cord. So there's a lot of ways you can do this to modify this to make cord for your needs. But that's the simplest way to make cordage out of weeds. Now, if you didn't want to go through this trouble and you just needed some cord, I know when we were making our Fire Volume 1 video, we wanted to make a bowstring for our bow drill. We just went to a spruce tree, went under some of the pine needles and grabbed a rootlet from that spruce tree and pulled it up. We got about a 6-foot long rootlet and used that rootlet as our cord for our bow drill. Worked just fine. We used it 3 times to get 3 bow drill fires out of it. It still didn't break. Another alternative, go to a mulberry tree or a hickory tree. Take a vertical strip of bark. Take your knife or a sharp rock, score a vertical strip of bark, peel it off, twist it about 6 times. You can use that as a cord. Now, it's not going to be near as strong as this Dogbane, but depends what you're using it for. Another weed you can use is milkweed. Again, not as strong as Dogbane, but if you're sewing buttons on a shirt, plenty strong. So it depends what you're using it for. If you want to do a bowstring, I'd recommend Dogbane. But if you're going to sew buttons on, milkweed is just fine. So, anybody else have any experience out there with any kind of cordage or anything like that? This is not braiding. A lot of people see this reverse wrap and they go, "Oh, that's braiding." No. Braiding, you have 3 and you do the braiding. You don't get the strength of this reverse wrap because you're twisting away is pushing the fibers one way, and that twist towards you is making them bind against each other. That's what gives all the strength to the cordage. So, does anybody have anything else? We have a few more.
Paul says nettle is one of the best that he has.
Stinging nettle? Yep, stinging nettle does work. It's strong. It's stronger than milkweed. Not quite as up to the Dogbane, but like I said, in my experience, Dogbane seems to be the strongest. But there's different types of nettle, and I'm sure there's different types of Dogbane. Nettle has a lot of good uses. You can even use it to stop bleeding to some degree. If you get the underside, if you get the stinging nettle, the stinging part will help stop bleeding. Not as good as yarrow, but it'll help stop some bleeding.
So Paul says clematis bark can be used, and Wendy wants to know if there are any vines that you can use.
Everybody mentions vines, and I've never found a vine that's strong enough for really anything that's for too much use. Clematis bark, I've never tried that. Cheryl, do we have clematis growing around here?
That was what we were talking about. Clematis here is a ornamental plant, a vine.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it's what Paul is talking about. Could be, but I don't know.
Paul, if you could you send us the botanical name? Because I'd like to see if this is a good time of year we could plant some here and I could do some playing around with it. This is a great time of year. We could put some in our backyard and we could play around with some of it. I'd appreciate it if it's possible for you to get the botanical name, because without the botanical name, what our nurseries call clematis, it might be totally different than what you're referring to out there. I know we have some plants here. We have a plant called ground ivy, and I'll do a plant class, and people will say, "No, that's gill over the ground." And somebody else will say, "Oh, that's not gill over the ground. That's creeping Charlie." It's all the same plant, but it goes by different names.
Is the process the same for yucca and other fibers?
Yes. Yes. Reverse wrap is reverse wrap. Yep. Thing with the yucca fibers are so fine, you can make some fishing line that's really small, really fine. With yucca fibers, you could make a suturing kit that would be awesome. Just because you could get those yucca fibers, I know you can't see at this distance, but these fibers are like really, they look like a human hair, and they're really strong. To make a cord, you'd have to use probably 30 of these fibers And then you would use those to start reverse wrapping, and that would still be a very fine cord. Yucca is awesome. I mean, out west, this was their go-to. I never saw anything on tests of tensile strength. I'm sure there's some out there, and I should maybe try to. But it depends on how old it is. I'm sure the varieties. There's a lot of variables for that natural stuff. But just in general, from my experience, the strongest around here in Northeast Ohio, Northeast U.S. Dogbane ranks right up there. Milkweed is mediocre. The nettles are strong, more so than the milkweed. And yucca ranks up there. But again, if you're in a survival situation or a wilderness situation, you're going to use what's around. Dogbane might be the best, but if you have nettles, you're going to use nettles. And if you need it stronger, you're just going to double it. Take your time.
Paul says the clematis is the same that we have here.
It is, okay. Well, then I'll have to yield to my gardening expert to get some and we'll plant it. Mm-hmm. Right, gardening expert.
Right after you get rid of our deer.
Oh yeah, we have quite a deer, not problem. We just have herds of deer in our backyard that eat plants down to the ground. Okay, well, like I said, this was pretty basic on the cordage, but just to give people an idea. And what I'm trying to do is, whether you're watching this live or you're going to be watching it on YouTube, I'd like you to get out there, see if you could go out and find some of these growing in a field. If you do, grab a stalk or two, step on it, take it home, knock these off, and see if you can make some reverse wrap. And if you have kids, show them how to do some reverse wrap. Get people involved. Get yourself involved. And it's just fun to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. And it's kind of rediscovering the old ways. So other than that, hopefully spring's going to be on us here. Weather's getting warmer. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with another Facebook Live. Anything else?
YouTube.
YouTube. Our YouTube channel, don't forget to get that. We have our videos up, and this will be on next Wednesday, the Midwest Native Skills. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you 2 Thursdays from now.